What up? Golden Era Podcast on YouTube, episode 4, Tier 2, Top 50 Player Rankings. Huge group, 8 all the way to 22. Let's start there. Savon White is 22. He makes a huge leap from 4 up to 22. Tier 4 up to Tier 2. What do you like about Savon White? Elite defender and a great scorer that he showed last season. For the first time in his career, he was leading the league for the longest period, doesn't end up getting it done. Savon White has really been battling up a hill since the moment he walked into the NBA. The consensus was it was going to be Brighton Reed and Jevon roll at 1-2. Savon White jumps into Portland at number 2. Where do you like this? You like what he can do offensively. And I think Portland is going to be a top 4 team in the Western Conference so long as Savon White is on this team. He is an incredible defender. It's what he entered the league in as, and he has made leaps and bounds as an offensive piece. I don't know that he needs to improve at playmaking. He's 4 assists per game-ish. What he needs is another piece in Portland. I think if you're this group and you say, look, right off the bat, Savon White's an All-NBA caliber wing guard type of player. I agree with that. Their ceiling is probably what it was last season where they lost in the conference semifinals because they need more depth. The problem with Portland is that there's nobody else to help Savon White. But when he gets going, Savon White has the case to be the best 2 guard on any given night in the league. Is he? No. Is he top 5? Yeah, I would say so. 21 is Ezekiel Maro. Maro is a triple-double machine with Toronto, man. Last season, when Jalen Justice missed, I think it was all of December, Ezekiel Maro was averaging 30 points, 11 boards, 7-8 assists. He had multiple triple-doubles. He's always near the top of the triple-double rankings. He's a 17-8-8 guy any single night. He is the ideal partner for Jalen Justice, where you say, let Justice cook, and Maro's going to fill in the rest. Great defender. He's not a great three-point shooter. That would be the one knock on him. But he can play both the 3, the 4. He can guard 5s if needed to. They haven't asked him to do that with Keon Wallace being there. Ezekiel Maro he's probably the better fit as a third option on an elite team, but like on a bona fide, unquestioned. But as the number 2 guy, he fills in and steps up when they need to. 20, I've got Xavier Carter. A lot of injuries last season. Carter was Tier 2 last season, as was Maro. A lot of injuries, but when he's healthy, the Celtics have maybe one of the best top 2 combos in the NBA. Second to, I would say, Phoenix has probably got a better group. Golden State. Toronto, obviously not, but you can make the case on the delta between the number 1 and the number 1 guy between Toronto being Jalen Justice and Boston being Amari Swift. But Xavier Carter, you have to like your chances with him there. And it still is maybe one of the biggest heists in the NBA that the Celtics, in trading away Jason Tatum, somehow convinced the Lakers that losing Xavier Carter to bring in Wendell Carter Jr. was the right move, because it obviously wasn't. Xavier Carter, though, where you would like to see him be a little bit better, a little bit more dominant big man. I don't think offensively he is that, though with Amari Swift there, you don't need to be. He operates best with a point guard that can kind of facilitate and get things going. I don't know keeps Freudian slipping this thing, that Boston has that guy, but Carter's a top 4 center in the NBA. You know, you take Robert Mack, you take Abiz Ojale over both of them, or over Carter, but that's where he starts getting in the conversation. Say, I don't know if there's anyone better than him at the 5. At number 19 is Abiz Ojale. Minnesota got lucky that he fell to them at 6. They did not get lucky the next season when they had the top 2 odds and they ended up at 4 and 5. But Ojale is a physical specimen on par with maybe no one else in the NBA. Maybe you make the case Robert Mack. But from the center position, I don't know that there's anyone quite as athletic as Abiz Ojale. This is peak Dwight Howard athleticism, peak Julius Walker athleticism. He makes the Timberwolves a contender for a top 4 seed in the Western Conference just by being there. This is still a young team. They've got pieces to fill in around him. But He's going to rebound the heck out of the ball. He's going to block the crap out of the ball, and he's going to score 25 points per game. He is everything you want from the center position, and Minnesota's got him. At 18, I've got CJ McCoy. He makes the leap up from third tier last season into tier 2. This is Allen Iverson, man. What we've seen from CJ McCoy last season was Allen Iverson type stuff, and now the Pacers have made the right decision, moved him to the point guard. They bring in Ibrahim Mobley. They might have the best depth in the league because they can now facilitate around CJ McCoy. I think this is going to be a massive season for CJ McCoy on the offensive side of the ball. Yes, he's a massive negative on defense. Yes, this could be Trae Young-like, but his offense is better than anything that Trae Young even brought. That's how elite as a scorer CJ McCoy is. At 17 is Javon Stokes, and this is going third year, and he's already 17th in the league. I think he's going to be tier 1 by next season. 25 to 28 points, 6 to 7 assists, 5 to 6 rebounds. He's playing he could go actually higher on that. 8 to 9 assists this season could be well within his capabilities as a playmaker. He pushed, even as an 8 seed, he pushed the Raptors to actually need to go out and win games. He has a 5-game series, but it's kind of like Ty Outlaw did, but on steroids. He's going to take over the league, and the Chicago Bulls with Stokes, with Motley, and then with Cavante Kennard, who they took first overall, 3 years from now, this could be a repeat championship team, and Stokes is going to be at the center of it. I don't think he's going to be All-NBA this season. I think he's going to be in the MVP conversation. At 16, I've got Brighton Reed. Reed has made a ton of leaps, right? This was a very disappointing start to Reed's career. First 4 seasons in the NBA in Indiana, and he just looks terrible. The sign and trade to Brooklyn, and he's been reignited. If you look at point guards, you're taking Jevon role, you're taking Jalen Justice over him, and then you have to start having very real conversations between Reed, Stokes, John Morant, Kareem Robinson, Dwayne Qualls. It is a long list of guys, Trey Hunter on that list, that Brighton Reed has the case for. Is he better than them? No, obviously. But what he does with the basketball is phenomenal. He's an elite scorer. He's an elite playmaker. He holds his own on the defensive end. You are a championship contender with Brighton Reed on your team, so long as the rest of the roster is good. The difference between Brighton Reed and all the other ones is the other rosters, other pieces are, you don't need to be quite as good. But Brighton Reed's legit at 16. Number 15, I've got John Morant. This might be the last season for him, but he was still awesome. Now, I think he's 32. With a bad Memphis team. Now he's going to Miami. They should be deeper. They should have more talent than Memphis had. Memphis kind of mortgaged a lot of that to bring in Luca Donic. But he's still a 30-point-per-game caliber player, 7 boards, 9 assists. He has not lost a step athletically. He's one of the torchbearers of the last generation, along with Luca, who the pairing didn't really work for. They're there. Miami's reinvented themselves as a playoff contender now because of John Morant arriving. At 14, I've got Jason Sanders, and this is a fall. He was ranked number 7 last season. I think he could step up, but the challenge is another lost season for Cleveland, right? They were the 7th seed last year. They lose in the first round to Orlando. They didn't look like they were at any point in that series making a difference. So the drop-off from a Jason Sanders perspective has been a little surprising the last 2 years because he just hasn't, since that championship, he just has not changed things in Cleveland. They won 60 games a year or two after that. They lost in the first round to the Knicks. This is a team that you look at and has just had so much disappointment. I think reinvigorated in Sacramento. I think that could change. I think you could look at him as a fringe top guy. But at the same time, the forward class has changed. This is not the same forward class as it was when Jason Sanders was competing with Jonathan Kuminga as the best forward in the NBA. It has changed completely, but Jason Sanders is still right there. At 13, I've got Kade Cunningham. This is a fall as well. He was number 5 overall last season. The playoffs was a big part of that. He was inefficient in the conference finals against Golden State, but he's still an All-NBA guy. He dealt with some injuries last season. That's a worrisome red flag as he gets into his 30s. But he's still an elite two-way point guard. He can still score with the best of them. His defense is not what it was when it was in Oklahoma City, where he was just could take over anybody, but it's there. And his size and his frame allows him to be a difference maker in that regard. At 12, I've got Robert Mack. That will be our highest ranked center. I don't think there's any debate that Robert Mack is the number one guy. He is a guard caliber ball handler, a wing caliber athlete in a center's body. Charlotte is a contender with this dude out there, and that's why losing him last season was so devastating. And if they had gotten and held on to that number one pick, which was a pick swap last season, or it was a pick swap with New Orleans, they would have been a contender with another rookie on this team. That's what they need is a wing, but Robert Mack alone has you right on the cusp of contention at 12. At 11, I've got Luca Donic. I might be buying high on Luca, but he's still an elite player. He can still do all the things that young Luca did. Now in Milwaukee, he's going to have maybe the best teammate in terms of active skill set with Dwayne Qualls. But Luca maintains that triple double threat on a nightly basis. All right, coming in at number 10, Kareem Robinson, Lakers guard. He is obviously the best player that the Lakers have on this roster, and when he was healthy last season, the Lakers were the best team in basketball. Missed about 2 months with a knee injury that he suffered in October, returns, actually suffered in November, comes back mid-late season. He's the difference. 27 points, 8 assists type of player. So long as he's healthy, that's a team that can contend. Now, yes, they got beat up pretty good by the Jazz in the first round, 5-game series loss, but the difference that they had between being a 500 team and then being a team that was on pace for like 60 wins, that's because of Kareem Robinson. At number 9 is Dwayne Qualls. Qualls is former Defensive Player of the Year. He's, without question, the best point guard defender in the league. He might be the best two-way player in the NBA if you look at his complete abilities on both ends. The challenge with Milwaukee has always been, what is this team without Qualls? And they have yet to make the playoffs with him. They were a 9 seed last season. They lost in the opening round of the play-in. There's still a lot of questions, and they continue to make a lot of moves to try to bring in pieces, and it hasn't worked. Now you've got Luca Donic, but what has worked is Qualls. He's a 30-point per game, 10 assists, 3 rebound force. If he ever becomes free, if he ever hits the market, whether in free agency or as a potential trade candidate, Dwayne Qualls is going to get a massive haul. In the meantime, though, he seems to be pretty committed to Milwaukee. That's a great thing for the Bucks. If they win more games, he's maybe a top 5 player in the league. And at number 8, Amari Swift. Swift, I think, could probably be a little bit higher than this talent-wise, but the Celtics really struggled last season. A lot of that was because of the depth, right? They lost Kareem Robinson to the Lakers because the Lakers had cap space, so you don't get this sign and trade deal that kind of helps you replenish some pieces. That hurt them. But Swift he's an MVP caliber player, and the fact that Jacoby Cleaves got it last season, I think, is due in large part to the win-loss record. Swift is going to be back in that mix. There's a case to be made that the tier 1 needs to be 8 teams or 8 players, and Amari Swift is it. All right, that's tier 2, so we've got Amari Swift at 8, Dwayne Qualls, Kareem Robinson, Luca Donic at 11, Robert Mack, Kade Cunningham, Jason Sanders at 14 there, John Morant, Brighton Reed, Javon Stokes, CJ McCoy, Abiz Ojale, Xavier Carter, Ezekiel Maro, Savon White. Tier 1, top 7 players in the NBA is next.